Why are you so afraid to sell? It's just absolutely amazing to me how many business owners we speak with on a weekly basis who are terrified of this idea of selling, or they think that it's somehow not important to the success of their business. It's really hard for me to understand. It's like the very thing that would lead to more sales, they are averse to, right? Like they're so afraid to be salesy or to sound salesy, because that's what they think selling is that they're going to get on the phone or the web conference and sound like a used car salesperson. They're so afraid of that, or to be too pushy or to market too much, that they literally, push themselves right into the poorhouse, and their businesses are literally a single unforeseen event away from complete financial ruin, because they have no sales system in place. They have no sales pipeline. They have no way to generate leads. They have no one on their team, including the founder, has any real sales skills. And they just downplay that side of things. And it's really difficult for me to understand it. My content is not the best. Like, I create these short, well, I guess they're relatively long. I create these little videos. I have waited to do content. I wish I hadn't. But just to give you a little bit of context, like, as a B2B consultative salesperson, I sold over $22 million worth of B2B services from cold outreach before ever starting my own 7-figure company, which was also driven by cold outreach. Now, do we do paid traffic now? Yes, but well after we had reached the 7-figure mark. And so when you think about that, cold outreach, like pre-2009, I was literally cold calling into businesses. So my day would consist of calling companies that had no idea who I was, who my company was, trying to get past gatekeepers, receptionists, executive assistants, just to have a conversation with a decision maker or department head, just to find out if there was any interest there, or if there was any reason to have further discussion. Like, almost half my day was spent just trying to have enough of those conversations so that there's enough things in the pipeline so that I could pay my bills and make money, right? And made multi-six figures in doing so, okay? After 2009, I worked in a certain environment where there was these two companies that had made the Inc. 500 9 times between the two of them, and they were co-owned. So like the founder of one company, which was a private label product development company, was a partner at the other, and the founders of the other, which was a healthcare staffing company, were partners of the other, and we were all in the same environment. These two companies, they're called Accenture and the HCI Group. You can look them up online. Between the two of them, made the Inc. 500 9 times in 11 years. And do you want to know what we learned, or what I learned when I was there? We did cold outreach, emails, LinkedIn, to generate appointments. And the guys that run those companies are involved in several other businesses as well. So I'm just talking about just two of their companies. Inc. 500, 9 times in 11 years, primarily driven by outbound. Okay. What was the strong emphasis on? And these are great companies, right? Look them up. Accenture out of Jacksonville, Florida, and HCI in the HCI group. These are fantastic companies ran by some of the best entrepreneurs that I've personally ever met in my life. And I've talked to thousands of them over the years. And they had a strong focus on outbound and sales skills. Okay? So let's contrast that with what we hear from prospects that we talk to at my company, Sales Key. On a weekly basis, hundreds we're interacting with through LinkedIn, through email, Facebook, through also some paid advertising campaigns we're doing. Calls, web conferences with myself and the sales team. We're interacting with literally hundreds of these small businesses every single week. I've interacted with thousands over the years. And would you like to know what I regularly hear? These are some of the common things, and it totally confuses me. I don't get it. And the companies, they're just literally trying to run a race with one foot tied behind their back. I hear things like, just simple conversations like, okay, tell me about your sales process. Oh, what do you mean? Well, tell me about your sales process. Like when you get a lead, what's your process? What's your follow-up process? Like, what do you actually do? What do you say? What's the process? Oh, well, yeah, once we get someone on the phone, we have no problem. Okay, where have you gotten most of your business? Referrals. And I tried this marketing thing and it didn't work. And I tried that marketing thing and it didn't work. And I tried this marketing thing and it didn't work. Okay. Who's handling the leads? Oh, I am. But I'm not a sales guy. I'm not salesy. I'm not a marketing guy. I'm a tech guy. I'm a tech nerd. That's cool, dude. Sales is like the number one entrepreneurial skill that you need. Marketing and sales, those two. And I don't mean any disrespect. It's just we hear this so often, and it's like I said, it's just really kind of confusing after a while. Or another example. Okay, so how are you going to follow up with the leads, right? Now imagine this for a moment. Just think this through logically. You don't even have to have a marketing or sales background. Just think about this logically, okay? Let's say we have a company that we're generating leads for, and they want us to target other companies, decision makers, so founders, CEOs, presidents, partners, or department heads, so head of business development, chief sales officer, VP of marketing. And let's say the companies that we're targeting for them have hundreds of employees, okay? So first off, think about the difficulty of generating those leads depending on their offer. And then how valuable that lead is once you get it. Like you actually break through the clutter and you get like the VP of marketing of say a 500 person company to respond and say, yes, I'd like to have a conversation about that. Do you want to know what we've seen over and over? We don't let our clients do this anymore, but in the beginning, we made this mistake of just going the lead gen route and here you go, here's a lead, and it's up to you to know how to follow up. We don't let them do that anymore. We train them because we made the mistake, because this is what they were doing. We're like, who's following up with the leads? And they're like, oh, my assistant Debbie's following up with the leads. Okay. Does Debbie have any sales training? Oh, no. Okay. Does Debbie have any SDR training? Sales development rep. What's that? Okay. What else was Debbie doing for you before she started handling the leads? Oh, she would just do some admin tasks for me. Another example, client will go unnamed, but this is honestly, they wouldn't even be able to identify themselves anyways, because there's probably like, I don't know, tons of examples exactly like this. I can't tell you how many times we've heard this, and it's absolutely insane. They'll be like, oh, my office manager's following up with the leads. Oh, who's your office manager? Oh, that's Brian. Just gonna make names up. Oh, that's Brian. Okay. Does Brian have any sales training? No. Okay. Does Brian have any SDR training? No. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I can really see why those last 5 marketing campaigns haven't worked out. All those companies just sucked. Has nothing to do with your lack of sales skills. Yeah. Or the fact that you have your office manager who up until that point had been doing your books, which you should probably have outsourced to an actual CPA a long time ago, but you want to cut costs while you avoid doing. I mean, now I'm really ranting because I'm going off track here, but meanwhile you're you should have done tax planning 3 years ago, and your business structure is set up in such a way that you're literally spending way more in taxes than you need to, and all the 99 percenters are going to throw eggs at this, I'm sure, but I honestly really don't care. Because most of you don't work hard enough. You waste your money and your time, and you blame it. You blame it on other people. And how do I know this? Because there's immigrants who come to America from very humble beginnings that are not white, who make a literal fortune for themselves because of the decisions they make and the sacrifices they make. I'm way off track at this point. So let's go back to the sales training, shall we? As 50% of the people who are watching this have disappeared at this point. The other 50% have drawn closer. But just think about that logically for a minute, right? Like, let's say that you get a lead from a VP of marketing at a company that has a few hundred employees, right? Like a marketing company that you worked with was effective enough to get the attention of someone who gets, I don't know what, hundreds of messages a day on all the social media platforms and their inbox and so forth, presented with literally thousands of advertisements. And that company was able to get the attention of a VP of marketing at a significant size company, not a huge company, but a few hundred employees is not small. And they were able to cut through the noise and get that person to respond and say, yes, I want to have a conversation about this. And then you put Debbie, your executive assistant, on the job for a deal that could be worth $100,000 or $200,000 lifetime to your business, and you put Debbie on it. What are you doing? I mean, did you know that sales skills are an actual thing? It's one of the highest paid professions in the world for a reason. Perhaps there might be something to it. Perhaps it's something that you should pay attention to. If your business is not doing the kind of money that you really want it to be, the whole reason you got into business in the first place, why did you start a business? Right? I mentioned this in a post the other day. It's like, hopefully there's a service component to it. Otherwise, no matter how much money you make, it's not going to feel right. Probably you wanted to make more money. Probably you wanted to just bear with me here, would you? It's late, and This is literally the only time I get my creative ideas, so I'm just going to give it to you raw now. Probably to have more time freedom. You may have not been cut out for the 9-to-5 deal like me. It just wasn't the right fit. And you have some great idea or some great thing that you want to share with the world. So you venture out on this entrepreneurial journey. And do you want to know what the reality is? I'm not going to be the 10th video you saw today that tells you the truth, which is that it's friggin' harder than it usually looks. A lot harder, a lot more sacrifices go into it. That's not even the purpose of this. But the other reality is that if you don't get the sales and marketing piece figured the fuck out, then you run a real high risk of going out of business entirely, or basically being stuck in a situation where you are making less money and working harder and more hours than you would at a decent paying 9-to-5 job. That's the truth. It's not this sales and marketing thing that you might be so averse to. Like, I don't want to be too salesy. I don't want to market my business too much. I don't want to be too, I don't want to promote too much. Like that very thing that psychological block you have to that is like on the other side of that is all the stuff that you want, right? More customers for your business, serve more people, make more money, have the type of lifestyle that you envisioned when you envisioned your whole entrepreneurial journey. The pathway to that is sales and marketing, whether you like it or not, period. Right? I'm not the best out there when it comes to this. There's people I look up to that have done more in shorter time frames than I have. And I'm just like, wow, like I'm going to shut up and I'm going to learn from this person. That's the way that I approach them when I see it, is like, and you know what? There's people that do have, accomplished less with their business in more time. And I'm open to learning from them as well. But it's like 90 some odd percentage of all businesses never reach 7 figures in annual revenue. That's USD. 90 some odd percent. Where did I get these statistics? I'm going to tell you, and please fact check me and comment, because I've actually been searching for the support for this, but I'm going to tell you where I heard that. My CPA, who's a very bright guy, said he heard that. I went and searched online to see if I could find a credible source to back that up. And the best I could find was a book that actually, and I forget the name of it, that actually quoted 94%. So I think it's fair to assume, and by the way, I can anecdotally tell you from the hundreds of conversations I've personally had, thousands over the years, how many of these small businesses are not doing 7-figure? We're not even talking about margins here. We're not even talking about what do they actually keep. I'm going to tell you some more stories, because this is, I guess we're on a rant on this one, right? You got my little wise owl in the back. I don't know if this is venting or teaching, but I'm just, it's the truth, and I feel like it needs to be heard, because it's just absolutely absurd and whatever. So, and it's really late, so I'm trying to maintain my train of thought here as I come off of a 12-hour day. So, which includes the gym. So it's not all continuous work, but so, when you stack it together, it's a bit much sometimes. We talk to businesses regularly that have been in business for 5, 10, 15, sometimes 20 years, or more, and they're still have never hit 7 figures in annual sales. Some of them are they are above that mark, but they're like, maybe they've been in business for 20 years and they're lingering in the low 7-figure territory. And forget about their margins. When we do growth consulting and we learn about margin, like what they're actually taking home and how much waste there is in their organization, and how much stuff they're spending money on that just doesn't move the needle or even really do much for their business, it gets even worse. We're talking about businesses that have been around, right? 10 or 20 years and you've never hit 7 figures. And guess what common themes are that come up when we have these conversations? We hear this every week. Where do you get your business from? Where's your business come from? Oh, we've gotten most of our business from referrals and repeat business. You know what? Referrals is not a marketing strategy. Okay? Let me qualify that statement. Referrals are fantastic. You should shoot to get referrals. You should have all your salespeople, all the people in your company. If you offer something great, they should all be asking for referrals, telling people they know about it. I'm not saying that you shouldn't be doing that. But every business, depending on its goals, like if your goal is to not just earn like a shitty income from putting in 12-hour days, but actually live the way that you want and with the results that you want, I'm losing my train of thought here, guys. It's so late, but I got it. Once the creative wheels start turning, I got to either get it out there, or I lose it. And then it comes back later. So referrals are fantastic. Like, everybody loves referral leads. You can never have too many referral leads, but if you want to have the business that you really want, like the income, and not even just the income, just the revenue to do more cool stuff with your business, like reinvest in product development so you can stay competitive, reinvest into marketing so that you can gain more business, hire people that are good who can help take things off of your plate so you can have more time freedom and be in true business ownership position, right? Rather than just glorified self-employed. If you want all of that, like, you have to face one fact at some point. You can do it now. You should have done it 5 years ago when you started your business. The right time was yesterday. You have to face the reality that in order to do that, you have to solve the problem of how do you convert cold audiences, people that don't already know, like, and trust you. And I say it like that because I'm just so tired of people like repeating just like parrots, like, know, like, and trust. And I like, as soon as something catches on, it's like people just say that thing and they don't even think about it. I've sold to people who don't even like me. Liking will help you, though. I will tell you that, right? But I have sold to people that I promise you did not like me on a personal level, but they're like, all right, this guy gives us the best chance of getting a return on our money, and he knows what the hell he's talking about. So I trust him, but I don't necessarily like him too much, right? But liking will help you a lot. But back to the problem at hand, that you have to face. And I don't care if you're watching this video before you start I almost said shift, but you're an entrepreneur, right? Do you have a shift? I don't know. Maybe your shift starts early and ends late. Maybe you're watching this before you start work. Maybe you're on your lunch break. Maybe you should be working right now and doing things that move the needle, but you're watching me on video, which is probably still a better use of your time than whatever friggin' bullshit that you probably overinvesting your attention in. No offense. Or maybe it's late at night I'm catching you, and you can't sleep because all the things are churning around in your mind about, oh, sales were low last month, right? You have to face this one fact. At some point, you need to figure out how to convert complete strangers into new paying clients for your business. Now, I'm speaking, this goes beyond like who we actually work with, the value of what I just said, but we work with B2B service-based businesses that have a consultative sales process, which means that a human being has to talk to another human being in order for the transaction to happen. Normally that occurs when it's higher ticket. This is another friggin' buzzword that's just thrown around like nonsense. Because what does it even mean? I mean, like high ticket. Like they're like, oh, I sell high ticket. It's like, what's your ticket price? $3,000. Okay, depends on who you ask. But generally speaking, if it's under $2,000, you can still sell it off of a web page where you don't need a human being to actually have a conversation with your prospect in order to close a deal, right? But you start getting above 2K, it gets harder to convert on a web page, which means you then have a consultative sales process. And if you have a human being from your company, whether that's you or someone you've hired, having conversations with prospects, which are increasingly difficult to generate, okay, because of all the demands on people's attention, the hypersaturation in many markets, all of the people that are flocking to the internet, right? The right time to get involved in the internet game was like 5-10 years ago, right? Like the direction that it's been going, it's not, the trend towards digital is obviously not changing. And then the COVID thing just accelerated all that to a degree now where it's, I mean, just think about just since the COVID fiasco began, right? Think of all those companies, and we talk to them on a weekly basis, where they're like, the reason why they're on the phone with us is because they were doing trade shows and then COVID happened and they couldn't go to trade shows, which are super expensive, by the way. Literally talk to a client today who will remain unnamed in case they watch this video to protect their anonymity. Let's just say they're in the insurance space, because they are. They were sending their salespeople to trade shows that literally cost $35,000 when it was all added up per trade show. Okay, when you add up airfare and lodging and the food and the client dinners and the client drinks and the cost of the event and the cost to set up a booth, they'd pay $35,000 and get 0 leads from it. Now, to be fair, one of their salespeople who accounts for 80% of their sales, they have 5 salespeople, and one person accounts for 80% of their sales. Boy, this is starting to sound like the 80-20 rule. How does he get all his business, right? Well, he's been with the company for 16 years, and he is 70 years old, and he has spent the last decade and a half plus building relationships in that industry. So networking, going out, building relationships, sort of the what we call the old school way. And I'm not downing any of that. That should be part of your repertoire as well as the digital stuff, because I see the opposite happening too, where companies now they're so focused on just trying to do everything through automation that they forget to like pick up the phone and call a lead, or find other creative ways. Like I firmly believe you should kind of marry the old school stuff with the new school stuff. You don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. But going back to this example, this guy who is 70 years old, has been working for the same company for 16 years and building up relationships in his industry. He's spent the last decade and a half plus doing that, right? So that's great for him, but what happens to that business when that guy retires soon? If he accounts for 80% of their sales right now, that he's spent, 10 plus, 15 plus years developing those relationships in that book of business. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's great. But what happens when he retires? And what happens when you bring on a new sales rep? Do you have 15 years of leeway to give them for them to go out and go belly to belly and network with people like in the older days, right? And it wasn't so long ago. Like, I'm technically a millennial, but I'm right on the cusp between, I'll be 39 in May, right on the cusp between Gen X and millennial, but technically a millennial. So like part of my life, I grew up in the older way of doing things, the in-person networking, the cold calling, and all of that for a good chunk of my initial career. And then when the internet started to really take off, I got on that train, right? So I have kind of a mix of both of those. But what happens when you bring new salespeople on? What happens to the other 4 salespeople who haven't been in their field for 15 years? They don't have those relationships, right? What this company who I'm referring to is actually experiencing right now is very interesting, actually. I'm going to share some things, and again, I'm leaving the company name out because they are one of our clients, and we want to protect their anonymity. And if you're watching this and you know who you are, if you're watching this, I mean this with 100% respect, but this is the truth of what I heard during our consulting call today, okay? They're telling me that they were once innovators in their space. They have this sales guy that I mentioned, their top salesman. He's out there, he's picking up new business. They're innovators in their space. At one time, they probably had something that was very unique and different, and that offer got them a lot of traction. And then what he explained is that their growth curve has flattened, okay? And they're still growing, but it's flattened out. And part of the reason for that is these things. This is what the client said, okay? He said, other competitors have entered the space, copycat competitors. So as technology has changed, it's allowed, and globalization, more competitors enter the space. They copycat, they try to undercut on prices, they dilute the marketplace. Then you got bigger players who enter the space, suck up more market share, and start solving more problems for the client than our client is currently doing, right? So think of like an easy example, like, if all you do is paid ads, like paid Facebook ads, like this is the only service you offer, well, a more robust system like what we actually offer includes paid ads, retargeting ads, cold outreach, the sales skills to go with it, the sales system, all the scripts, the templates, everything, like solving more problems for the client, right? To help them get the results that they're after. But they have bigger competitors who have entered the space who are battling it out with them. And this is from their CFO's mouth of our client, right? There's a couple people from their side on the call. He said, it's harder now to generate leads than it was before. It's harder now to make sales. They got their sales team complaining, saying, we're not, we don't know, like, whenever a sales team is complaining, usually it's because they're trying to find an excuse for their lack of production, because at the end of the day, real salespeople make things happen, right? I didn't have leads handed to me when I started out. Even after the internet hit, like, I did my own cold outreach to generate leads for myself as a sales rep. When I was first growing Sales Key, we started in November of 2018. But those first couple months were really just, I literally gave the service away for free for like 30-day trials to get my first couple testimonials. I had some people in my personal network who had come from previous coaching programs who became our first clients. But that wasn't really when we really started. I mean, really we started because this was like November 13th of 2018 is when the LLC was originally formed. And as a side little benefit, a lot of you LLCs out there, especially if you've gone to a certain size in sales, you should probably be filing as an S Corp. But this is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. Go get you a good CPA. They're worth their weight in gold. I can even refer you to one if you'd like, because I've gone through like 3, and the group that we use now is fantastic. So, when we started our cold outreach on January 1st of 2019, we started our cold outreach, right? Like, we turned on the engines that I had learned how to build 10 years before, and kept up with over the next, 10, 11 years, all the technology changes. So I first learned about cold outreach for email and LinkedIn in 2009 when I worked at those in that environment with the 2 Inc. 500 honorees that I mentioned. But times kept changing, right? And so I stayed current with that and got to an approach that works really well where I didn't have to manually do everything. But that's all for another video, so to speak, or another podcast, right? Which I don't even have a podcast, so there you go. But if we go back to this scenario that I was explaining with this client, I just, when I heard all the facts of the situation, like they're spending $35,000 to send salespeople to a trade show and coming back with no leads. They've been working with us, I think for, 9 months, 11 months. We've generated over 250 leads for them, right? They tried another program that was like some white paper thing, and out of the client's mouth, he said, the leads that we get through you are far better and more targeted. But the bigger picture that I saw as they sort of unfolded everything is that they don't have organization in their sales team. There's a lack of sales skills in their organization, not their top producer. I said, look, if this guy's 70 years old and he's producing 80% of your business, he's built up all these relationships, going to be kind of difficult to get him to like start using LinkedIn now. If he's open to it, we can have a conversation with, also using his profile to generate leads, but he's likely set in his ways, and if he's producing 80% of your business, you kind of just let the guy do what he does and support him. But what about your other salespeople, right? Here's what I saw. Disorganized. They are late to the game when it comes to getting their digital strategy figured out. They don't have proper sales processes in place, like follow-up processes. What do they actually say when they get on the phone? How are they utilizing the tools that they have at their disposal, like social media, the phone, email? How are they utilizing those tools to move their pipeline forward? Because they have a longer sales cycle. And their situation is similar to a lot of companies that we speak with, which is it's really hard to generate leads. It takes a while to close them, but once they close them, they keep them, and they're very lucrative accounts. Very common scenario. But what I saw is sort of like the bigger picture was like, when he's explaining that copycat competitors are coming into the space, larger companies are coming in and sucking up market share, and their competitive advantages are like not there anymore. And the driver of most of their sales is a guy who's 70 years old, who the things that he did to be as successful as he has been, you can't duplicate now because you have to, the world has changed. I'm looking at this and I'm like, this company is in more trouble than they realize if they don't get their stuff together on a sales and digital marketing front. Like, if they don't get those things together, they're in more trouble than they realize than just a flattening growth curve. And the reason why is because everything's becoming more competitive. Like, when COVID hit, it pushed the internet was already a competitive space. All these social media platforms, your inbox, seeing ads everywhere. Retargeting ads are following you around. Everyone's trying to get your attention. They're posting content like this now 42-minute video, this 42-minute rant video that's just filled with gold nuggets if you have eyes to see and ears to hear. I'm losing my train of thought because I'm getting tired here, but just stay with me. I promise. You can squeeze out a little bit more value from this video. I promise. Just give me a second to get my train of thought back here. They got competitors coming in. They're losing market share. Their offer is getting squeezed because people are undercutting on price. Oh, cool. Sorry, the low battery thing. I thought my phone had died and cut off the video, but I'm back for more of your personal and business enjoyment. They're getting assaulted on all sides. The company hasn't changed with the times fast enough. And now they're coming to the dance a little bit late, right? Because they rode the coattails of things that worked before. And now they're getting into how do we, if trade shows are so, the last trade show we did was $35,000 and it didn't generate any leads, then how do we do this, this digital stuff, right? And we're not talking about a website here, okay? I'll have to do another video just on that alone. But, the questions that I was asking them were things like, what does your salesperson do when they get a lead? What's the process? They didn't know. They didn't have a clear answer for that. They don't necessarily have all of their salespeople singing off of the same hymn sheet, so to speak. What do you do with the traffic that is already landing on your website? Do you have retargeting ads set up, which are relatively cheap? And if you do have those ads set up, which you should if you don't, when someone clicks on that ad, where do they go? Do they just go back to your web page, or do they go to an actual marketing funnel? Because you can't send them back to your primary site and expect them to call the phone number that's on the contact page that they need to then click to get to. You might get a few like that, but most of your marketing dollars are going to be wasted, okay? All these things tied together too. So what we're doing for this particular company is we are doing an outbound strategy on LinkedIn. This is a proprietary strategy, okay? This is not your standard send out connection requests, and when someone connects, just go ahead and send them a message afterwards. It's far more sophisticated than that. So, and I've been using LinkedIn to generate leads since 2009 on my own profile. I literally pay $20 a month for Sales Navigator. To give you context, that's called legacy pricing. They currently charge, I don't know, $99 a month. So, I was asking questions like, I should have asked more questions about how trained their salespeople actually are and if they had a systematic sales process. But we didn't have enough time to get into everything. But I was asking them about like retargeting ads, marketing funnels, content, right? Because like the campaigns we're running for them, we're running on a couple profiles. Like, just because someone doesn't respond to the outbound message and is ready to be a lead like today, like these reps should be posting content, or at least someone should be posting the right types of content on all of these profiles and their company profile, which has grown by like a factor of like, I don't know, I think he said 8 to 1,800. So we've doubled the size of his following on just his company page. We're not even talking about all the first level connections of the profiles that we're using, which are all free eyeballs that they could be presenting content to. Because think about it. You could have, you could send someone a cold outreach message on LinkedIn. They see the message. They like it piques their interest. And then they get busy and they read it for a second and then they click off the page and they get busy. And by the way, that's how it happens online. If you don't believe me, observe yourself for a day. See how much you click around on stuff on your phone and how fast stuff happens. Like you see something and it sucks you in for a moment, and then you switch to a different app and you switch to 3 or 4 other apps within a matter of just like a couple of minutes, and you forget about one of the other things you were looking at. Well, that happens to like basically everybody, right? Certainly your busy prospects, those decision makers and heads of departments that you so desperately want to have meetings with. So if they get a cold outreach message from you, even if everything's done on the front end, even if the messaging is really good and it actually piques their interest, even if they respond, you still have to have an effective follow-up process in place, because they will get busy and they will forget about it. I mentioned this in another video. I literally have, now it's down to, I think 3. At the time of the other video, it was 4. I said I have 4 offers in my inbox right now from companies that have reached out to me cold. I think 3 of them were cold and 1 of them was from a company that I already have a relationship with. And they're offers for products or services that my company like could potentially solve pain points that we have, like could be things we could implement that could help us in certain areas of the business. And we are legitimately interested in those, and we have the budget for them. And these people have followed up 3, 4, 5, sometimes 6 times. And I haven't responded, not because I'm not interested. I'm literally too busy to address it. So I have it, like I've starred it in my inbox because I don't want to forget about it. But I've starred it for a reason. And God loved one of the guys that actually, I finally just closed it with him for an investment opportunity in crypto, which it's not my first rodeo with crypto, so I understand the risks. But he stayed on me, and it's with a group that I have done some other deals with successfully and have been engaged with them for a while. But to his credit, even though his follow-up wasn't very good, he was persistent, and that he kept it top of mind for me, because my first answer when he presented it to me was no. And that's because he didn't know how to explain it correctly. So I'm just sitting there with a calculator going, dude, this is going to take 2.5 years to see any sort of return, and the return does not look attractive enough to want to wait that long when I know there's other better investment vehicles. But then he came back after learning more and shared more details about how it actually works. I did more research, and then suddenly my no turned to a yes, because I was like, oh, like shit, like this actually is a good opportunity. And I say no to most that I'm presented with, right? I'm not a Warren Buffett level investor in terms of skill, but I'm not a noob either, right? But the point is that, like, to his credit, like, he followed up with me, man. Even though his follow-ups weren't even very good, like, he followed up with me. And that would have been a no if he would have just tucked his tail and gave up. So where did we start this video? Because now we need to end this video. If you are still in this mode where you don't want to learn how to sell, you think it's icky, you like your only idea of what selling is like the used car salesman, ultra pushy, high pressure tactics. If that's your only like thing that comes to mind when you think of selling, it's time to upgrade that mental picture, because it doesn't fit with reality. Are there those people out there? Of course. They're called amateurs. Do you think that you walk into a boardroom with C-suite executives from Fortune 500 companies and do the Ben Franklin close, or whip out some like outdated high pressure sales tactic? Like, do you really think that works? Even let's chunk down. Let's say you're just dealing with like real business owners, right? Not solopreneurs who, and no disrespect if you're a solopreneur, like get your grind on and make shit happen, right? Don't lose sight of your dream, but don't also underestimate what it's going to take to get there. But I mean real businesses, right? Businesses that are doing, and by the way, small businesses are still like, SBA considers small businesses, and don't quote me on this, but I think it's close. Like under 100 employees is considered a small business. Small business is doing under like $38 million per year, depending on which industry you're in. So when you're dealing with like real businesses that are doing millions of dollars in annual sales every single year, or tens of millions, or hundreds of millions, like in a B2B context, like the way you sell is not at all what you're probably thinking it is. It's more sophisticated, it's more subtle, but it is a skill, and it's a very valuable skill. And that's one component of a larger framework. Let's get the owl back in there for a minute, because I'm pointing out some wisdom, and the owl represents wisdom. So you can see my bald head and the owl at the same time. Okay. So sales is one key component. And then there has to be lead generation, lead nurturing, lead follow-up, all the technology that connects all that stuff together, marketing funnels, a funnel for hiring new salespeople. Let's see if we can keep this under an hour. We're currently closing in on 56 minutes. And if you stayed with me this long, just buy from me. No, I'm just kidding. But do book a call if you are a B2B service-based business with a compelling offer. And if you don't know what that is, book a call and we'll talk about it. And I'll tell you if it is or isn't. And you're at least, bare minimum, already doing $200K in annual revenue, or you have an ARR, annual run rate, of at least $200,000. So, annual run rate is just your monthly revenue times 12. So at least that. B2B services. You already have case studies in your industry. You've already created client wins. We are currently not in the business of helping companies go from 0 to 10K a month and like launching their businesses. We may do a program for that because we can certainly add a lot of value there, but currently we don't offer programs for beginners. Unfortunately, even a lot of the ones that are doing 6 and even 7 figures a year, when it comes to their understanding of a lot of the things that I've been talking about, they're still beginners, man. They may be advanced on outdated tactics, but when it comes to the stuff I'm talking about, most of them are pretty clueless. And I mean that with all due respect. Like, they're out of their depth and they don't realize how important this is to get solved. And the other thing they don't typically fully grasp is how fast things change on the internet. Like, what works today on Facebook ads, as one example, right, may not be as effective in like 3 months or 6 months, right? Or for example, the fact that when COVID hit, more and more people flocked to all these social media platforms, started sending out more cold emails, which means that there's more people competing for the very attention that everybody wants to get, because all the campaigns we've ever ran, and we've served over 350 companies just in the last 36 months. And out of those, many of them have ran multiple campaigns with us, like more than a single target and message. So we've literally ran hundreds of these just in the last 3 years. I've ran, I can't even tell you how many more over the past, 3 minus 6, like 16 years on top of the 3 years in business. And I forgot my point there. I feel like Joe Biden. Just losing my train of thought every few seconds, but for me, it's not dementia. It's like 12:30 at night after a long day. And hitting the gym, powerlifting, doing heavy deadlift day of, what was it today? 345 pounds, 5 reps times 3 sets on deadlift, 300 pounds on squat, 5 reps times 4 sets, and a long day of work. So I'm pretty cooked. I've completely forgot my final thing here. I'll give it one last shot to pop into my head so we can close this out. I'm just gonna end with where we started after we've now crossed the hour mark. You gotta get the sales and marketing thing down. Oh, this is what I was gonna say earlier. Like this company that I was talking about, this little case study that I've given you kind of an outline, like they're in more trouble than they realize, right? Because think about it, their salesperson who's been in business for, he's been with them for 16 years. He accounts for 80% of their business. He's 70 years old, which means that at some point here, maybe he's going to wait till he's 80 till he retires. Maybe he's going to retire in the next 3 years or 5 years. He's going to retire at some point here in the near future. Then what are you going to do? So you got that problem. You got competitors coming in, and if their competitors get on the digital marketing and sales train and get that hammered out and figured out faster than they do, then they're going to capture more market share, which is going to make it more difficult for them to get business. In other words, they need to really focus on sales and marketing right now, and they got to get it right and not let minor setbacks like, oh, we tried this one thing and it didn't work, and so we're just, we're so afraid to spend money again. You're going to spend money on marketing things that don't work. Do you know how many marketing things we tried? We're a successful sales and marketing company. You know how many things we tried just last year in 2021 that didn't work? And when I say they didn't work, I want to qualify that. Like, even though they didn't produce the results that we had hoped for, they were still of value because it allowed us to try things we'd never tried before and get data back and experience from the situation that is valuable, right? But we discontinued them because we felt like there was a better use of our money elsewhere. But we don't stop trying. Like, that's the game. Like, it's hard to get eyeballs on your stuff. It's hard to get good leads consistently, especially if you want to get into more choice accounts. I mentioned this in another video talking about not all lead gen campaigns are created equal, right? Like, you see these companies all over the place like saying like, we can flood your calendar in 90 days. And they don't put any of the specifics like, this works really well when we're selling leads, a lead offer to self-employed real estate agents. Like, they don't put that in anywhere. They just make this like blanket statement. But that's completely false. You're going to tell me, so you're going to flood my calendar in 90 days. All right. Let's talk about the targeting. I want you to target companies that have 500 plus employees, and I want you to sell a program that starts at $250,000 and can be as much as $1.5 million. And I want to talk to C-suite executives and vice presidents and no lower than director level in these, in operations, marketing, and sales, as well as the C-suite and the owner and the founder and so forth. Please flood my calendar in 90 days. How are you going to do that, dude? There's a way to do it, but probably not going to take 90 days because there's a lot of stuff you need to do to even generate those types of leads. There's a lot of stuff you need to know how to do before you can actually scale the volumes to the point where you can flood someone's calendar with those level of leads consistently. And it makes sense too because they're harder to generate and the lead values are higher. When they close a deal, it means a minimum of $250,000, not $4,000 a month for 3 months. You get the difference here, right? So, I don't think I got anything left in the gas tank. I'm probably gonna get some love, some hate. I hope I get just anyone who's willing to watch this video and put up with my lack of production skills and my owl back there he's watching you, man. He's watching you. Sales and marketing owl. He's got his eyes on you. So comment, share, subscribe, like, dislike, comment below with if you agree, you disagree, you agree with everything, you agree with nothing. It's super okay with me. If you need help growing your business and you fit the description that I had shared in the video, and if you don't know what that is, rewind and watch it again. If you fit that description and you're ready to take action, okay? So, like, if you found this mildly interesting and the timing is wrong or whatever, feel free to like and share the video with someone that you think might be, benefit from it. Business owners that want to avoid mistakes and grow their businesses and do things in the right order and the right way from learning from someone in a team that has extensive experience in this space. But you're ready to take action now. You're ready to take the bull by the horns and stop fucking around